What's going on, everyone? Welcome back to another video about the Road to Scale Nationals. This video, totally different than the videos I've done in the past on this series. I have made progress on my trucks and we'll show them soon. But this video is actually going to be about a bunch of the other competitors who are going to the event this year. Now, I'm not a typical SORRCA competitor. Like we found, I'm having to build trucks that fit the rules and I'm having to do it in a condensed amount of time, so I'm just not a great example of somebody who may be going to this event in a very serious fashion, or maybe just another attendee that has something else built. So I reached out to Jason Johnson, who's helping put on the event, and asked him to put up a post asking other competitors to send him photos of their trucks. Jason and the team have been doing a good job putting up little driver spotlights, kind of showing some of the, well-known drivers or some of the, guys who are helping out and posting up their accolades and their sponsors and some of their vehicles. But I wanted to try and just put all of it together and get it out to some of you guys, because most of those posts are going only to the people who are already going to the event. You guys maybe haven't seen a lot of these trucks, and this will just give you an idea of what these Class 1, Class 2, Class 3 trucks look like in a more broad sense. My examples of it probably aren't the best possible examples to really give you an idea of. So instead, we're going to take and we're just going to go through a bunch of people's rigs, what they're bringing. And like I said, I'm estimating what, guessing what class these photos went to, because it wasn't in there. So if I mess it up and put your car in the wrong class, or you see one that you obviously know is in a different class, I'm sorry. If I mispronounce your name, I'm sorry. We're just going to do our best and get through this. Now, I've organized these into classes and I've sorted them by alphabetical order of the name. So that's how things were sorted. First, we're going to start off with Class 1. Now, that class is something that's supposed to be more of a stock-ish looking vehicle. The tires have to be 4.19 inches or smaller. They have to be at least half covered by the fenders of the vehicle. They have to have full width bumpers, and there's a number of other rules that if you're actually interested in, you can go to sorrca.com and read those. But this will just give you a basic idea. So the first car that pops up for Class 1 is Ben Thomas. And the first photo I have here is of a four-door green Hilux that's, been weathered or maybe actually just driven that way. It's hard to tell for sure. But it had the things to get the scale points on there, like a roof rack and light bars and some sort of bed rack, a winch hook hanging out the front. I think you'll notice that basically all the vehicles in here, if they're a somewhat serious competitor, they probably have a winch. The next car is by Caleb Cope. And I say car this time, and I actually mean car. I know I say car all the time and you guys yell at me. It's not a car, it's a truck, it's a Jeep, whatever. This is an actual car. Now, this is a good example. I'm assuming this is a Class 1. I can't see all of the details that I need to really get the proper information, but by the looks of the hand flared rear fenders to get that tire coverage, I'm guessing that this is a Class 1. Looks like there is a very tiny sombrero sitting on there in the dash. Definitely sitting on some SCX 10.2 axles. Overall, it's a cool car. Doubt you'll see too many other Dodge Chargers there. Next one's Charles Meeks and his square body Chevy here. I'm assuming Class 1 on this one. The tires look like they could be 419 Hyraxes. Looks like we've got a little bit of a bed bob on this one to maximize clearance, and it's minimal in a lot of ways. You can tell that this one's built for performance. The body's, trimmed to looks like the best he possibly can. It's got just enough fender flare added onto it to give him the tire coverage. It looks like it's got a handmade drop bed with inner fenders, a little bit of tube work in the back, and then a metal slider plate that's bolted to the side of the body. Probably acts as his body mount and gives him metal slider points, just trying to, kill two birds with one stone. Then we've got Chris Hartshorn in a Pacer. I like the Pacer bodies. I've seen them before. Cool little hard bodies. I can't tell a lot about this truck. The axles are kind of hidden. It doesn't look like it has an interior yet. Can't see what chassis it's sitting on, but overall, at least you can see the Pacer body. And next we've got David Capek, and I'm probably saying his last name wrong. David is a hell of a competitor, a hell of a driver, and builds some nice trucks. His hard body F350 here, this is a Tamiya body. It's SCX 10.2 based axles. And this truck from the outside in doesn't necessarily look like one of those trucks that's built for every competitive advantage. However, I know this truck is in that high level of competitiveness just because I've seen how it's placed in the past. And a lot of that, of course, goes to David's driving skill, though. And then we have Devlin and his Wienermobile. Now, I think that this is C1. At least that's what the details said that I saw along with it. But I think that it also needs some fender flares to meet that, and I think that he adds those on. I mean, you can see one of these things actually drive around, so it checks the boxes, right? How can you argue with that level of creativity? Following Devlin, we've got Akaika. Akaika and David both are crawl space guys. Akaika is the founder in the Denver area. David's got crawl space south, but this is another F-350. It looks very similar to David's. I'm sure that those guys work together to find a combination that works really well from them. Akaika is a hell of a driver. They've got a lot of their own design parts that they run and that I think you can actually buy through the Crawl Spaces website. Next one's from James Sockrider, and this one is a good-looking Toyota 4Runner hardbody from RC 4-wheel drive. It's got a bed-mounted Warren winch there. It's on some Proline KM3s, on some Vanquish Bronze Method 101s, full-size spare on the back. It's got TF2 sliders. Maybe this is a TF2 underneath. I'm completely guessing though. Either way, it's a really clean build. I mean, and it looks brand new in the photos. The next class one we have is from JP Reed. This is a bobbed Toyota build. Can't see a whole lot of detail here. It looks like a pretty minimal cut other than the bed bob. It looks like possibly it's got some axial SCX-10-2 style links on it, but beyond that, overall, it's just a simple, clean looking build. Based on the cacti in the background, there's a fairly decent chance that he's kind of familiar with this type of terrain that we'll be running on. And then we got a photo of Matt Kett's C1. Now this thing started as a Marlin crawler. It's got some Vanquish Curries underneath of it, and you guys have been seeing videos of Matt's plans for this thing. Of course, we have the little artsy little Matt touches, like for some reason, one yellow headlight and one clear headlight. Isn't he so quirky? Then we got Michael Wilson's C1. This is like a hard body, plastic Tonka toy type looking body. It's got like a really simple hard molded grill, but he's going to get the hard body points. It's got axial JK fender flares bolted to it to give him the tire coverage. It's leaf sprung and it's SCX-10-2 axle based. Pearson Bryant's C1. I met Pearson last year at K&K. He builds some high performance tuned stuff that he just really goes to town on. You can see the front bumper on this thing is just a simple, solid piece of tube up there, just enough to get full width metal bumper points. It's got a thin strip of metal down by the door to get him the metal rock slider points. Simple little loop behind the cab. Just every little thing it takes to get the points, keep it minimal, keep it high performance. And I believe our last C1 is Will Fritz. If you haven't seen Will on the internet, he probably hasn't offended you yet, but another car, hard body Buick Cutlass. I don't know what this thing is, but it's on some old school Vanquish Little Hairy wheels. From what I've gathered about Will in the past, I assume that he's built this one to try and be as competitive as possible. Class 2 is next, and that's the most popular class. That's kind of that in between. Runs up to a 4.75 inch tall tire. The tire coverage isn't required nearly as much as it is in Class 1. Bumpers only need to be as wide as the frame rails, and then there's a bunch of other options that you can do as far as performance modifications. Now, the first one is from Amon Johnson. Now, I think this is Class 2, at least that's how I think that I saw it listed, but this is about as radical of a Class 2 as you'll see. It does have a, ladder frame chassis front to back, and then it's got tube work welded to that. Other than that, it's pretty crazy. A wild departure from the normal type of vehicle that I think you would see. And the next one's from Brian Muzzy. I've known Brian for a long time, since way back in the comp crawling days, not the scale comp crawling, but long time, goes way back. Now this is his F-350 truggy style build. It's got a really cool looking tube style cage to it. Just overall, I believe I've seen this rig around for quite a while. So most likely it's one of those trucks that's got a lot of drive time. He's probably really familiar with it and knows exactly how to drive this truck. Next, we've got another one from Caleb Cope. It looks like a hard body just with how things are painted, how the windshield is in there, and some of those little details. But sitting on Vanquish Curries, so SCX-10-2 based most likely. It's got the Pitbull Rock Beast XORs on there. Not a tire you see often, but a tire that definitely has shown to work in the past. Looks like it's got a custom interior, a custom inner roll cage, and a bed cage. Based on the looks of the truck, looks like he's got a lot of drive time on it, probably knows the truck well. Then we've got a Class 2 from Charles Meeks. This one is one of those trucks that you can tell is built to try and be just the top level of performance. You can see it's on a Toyzuki chassis there. The body is trimmed and cut to just have the ultimate clearance. You've got a big angled cut from just behind the front passenger door all the way to that rear fender well. Some minimal tube work in the bed area and possibly continuing into the cabin. Looks like it's got a simple interior to try and get those scale points. Some high clearance links, just big tires, big approach angles. Then we've got a Power Wagon from Dave Smith here. Power Wagons are definitely one of those bodies that you see in competition often, just because of how much clearance those bodies can really have and what you can do with them. Plus, they just look good. This one looks like it's on a flat plate style chassis of some sort. It's got some very simple aluminum rock sliders bolted to the side. Super high clearance front bumper. Can't see a ton else on this one. Not picking on Dave here, but I'm just saying a lot of you guys are great builders, but you could use a little bit of time on your photography. Next one, David Fout, another F350 build, but some of the things that I can pick out do look pretty interesting. Look, if you look in the back, you can see just the hint of a sway bar, meaning most likely he's tuned this setup, maybe found that the very light sway bar works well for him or well for this style of truck. And of course the Wild Willie driver dropping right into the Tamiya cab. The next one is from Dean, or Chino, as a lot of you guys may know him. His FJ, what is this, is it a 45 or a 65? I never get my FJs right, but an FJ pickup style. Dean is definitely one of those guys who is a test, knows his truck. I'm pretty sure that he's had this rig built for a long time and knows it forward and backwards. Pretty sure Dean was back there in RC Crawler with us in like the 04 days. He knows what he's doing. He's been around. He knows how to drive. The next one is from Jimé Lagaska. I'm sure that I'm just completely butchering that name. This is the first one that I've noticed with Traxxas portals under it. Looks like it's running 2.2 Vanquish SLW wheels with KLRs stretched around them. So I can see that it's an axle mounted servo, which is something you don't see very often. It's running an axial, G6 or Falcon style body and just super basic. And then Jeremy Musso following right behind him with another set of Traxxas portals. So we got 2 in a row. This one's another Power Wagon. I assume that this is a Class 2. This one could be a Class 3 even with how aggressive it looks. I can't really tell the size of the tires, but overall just a really aggressive looking build. Then we've got Jimmy Hedges Hilux here. Pinched front grille way down, but still super clean looking. Looks like he's kind of cut the whole sides of the body up, opened up the wheel openings in general, but done it in a clean way. Looks like the rear bed is pinched with how aggressive the looks are, but still really cleanly done. Highlighted with some purple shocks and some fluorescent yellow-green style bumpers. It's got a cool style overall on this one. Then the next photo from Jimmy Jordan here actually has a Class 1 and a Class 2 Hilux of his in there. This kind of gives you a little bit of a comparison you can see here. You can see his Class 1, how far in the tires are. They kind of tuck inside the fender. The tires themselves are smaller. Like I said, they have to be 4.19 or less. And then the Class 2 up to a 4.75 inch tall tire. Again, some really aggressive body mods to this one, and one that you can clearly see has been driven a lot. This one's from Josh Splenlove, and it's a Proline Bronco body with the CGR cage. Can't tell a bunch about the axles, but just the Proline Hyrax on this one, those are the taller 4.75 inch. They're just a really good performing tire. You see that on a lot of these trucks, just because it does perform so well and it's still got enough of a scale look to be considered a scale tire. Metal bumper on the front, the light bar on the top, and 2 driver figures. Driver figures add up to quite a bit of scale points. So having both a driver and a passenger, and then I'm sure a bunch of scale accessories to try and get him to a reasonable level of scale points. Then we've got Larry Moore's C2. I think I've met Larry on the East Coast a number of years back. Again, another one of these Hilux bodies that's just been done and trimmed and narrowed and pinched, but looks really good after doing it. Clean truck overall, driver, interior, roll bar in the back, some scale accessories, very minimal roof rack to get those points, just a clean truck. Lawrence Shields has a bug here, just kind of a crazy paint job on a VW bug body. It's crazy choices that you see. This one's on some big old KLR M's on some Vanquish 105s it look like. SCX 10.2 base, that's about all I can tell from this, other than I can see that it's got some sort of interior inside. Next one here is just a little snapshot of the rear of Matt Ketz FJ60 something 85. I don't know what it is. I've been teasing him and calling it the Jelly Bean. This is on a VS410 platform with the VFD transmission. Then we've got another Power Wagon. This one's from Matt Ludinen. The little bit we can see about the truck, it's got some high clearance links, so you know, a little bit of an advantage there. The shocks are laid back. I assume it's on some sort of custom chassis as far as that goes. Really minimal little metal slider coming off the side, just again to grab some scale points. Brand new fresh build from Matt Wolf. It's with a new Proline Gladiator body with the Proline Grunt tires, some Vanquish Method 101s in orange because obviously, but it's all scaled out with a roof rack, roto packs in the side, a sand flag, a turbo on the hood, just all the things. Then we've got Nabil Jamali and his Trail Ranger. Nabil is an old school rock crawler with a lot of us, and he was a top 5 national level competitor, somebody to definitely be worried about if you're on the hunt for the podium yourself. He's using an old Axial Trail Ranger body. Looks like he's got some SMW wheels and some KLR tires. Next truck is from Rodney Benedict Jr. It does look like original SCX-10 style axles, maybe with like a flatbed-ish or truggy-ish design to the rear and some Pitbull Growler tires. Then we've got a 4-door Hilux build from Scott Cawthon. Scott is one of the locals helping out with Scale Nationals 2020. In general, this one's a little bit of a sleeper. I imagine that it's well suited to the terrain, but nothing that's overly shouting at you that it was, you know, competitive advantage was taken. Then we've got Scott McKee's Class 2, another F350 build, hard body, rear cage, minimal front bumper, just enough there. Looks like he's got a number of the scale accessories just kind of put on the bed in the back. The angle doesn't really provide us with a lot of information about what's underneath, but knowing Scott, I imagine that he's going to be chasing that competitive edge. This picture is from Sean Young. It's actually the first picture I have of all 3 trucks in one photo. 2 of the trucks look like they're still in the construction phase, but you can see the Class 3 there on the left. It's got some big, tall 2.2 tires on there, but overall, it's about the same height as these 1.9s. So just low slung. You can really tell how competitive guys are when you start looking at his front, driver's side tire there. It's only got 3 of the 6 beadlock screws in, and only 3 of the 6 hub screws in. This is Tommy Greer's well-used C2 on some very recognizable Disney Oklahoma rock. But this truck is one that I've seen him running for quite a while. I believe that's a Cadillac Escalade hard body that was cut up, or maybe just a Chevy truck. I believe that Tommy's running original style Currys on this one. And I've seen that this truck does well, which likely just means that he's got a ton of drive time on it and knows exactly what to expect out of this truck. But that does it for our Class 2 trucks. We'll jump into Class 3. Class 3 is the most aggressive type of truck. In Class 3, you're allowed to have 4-wheel steer or dig, not both. You do have to choose there. I believe you're allowed up to a 5.75 inch tall tire. The requirements for body width and things like that are much different. There is a minimum gate width setup, so you can get a little bit more free with how big you're going to build. The first one we have is Ben Moran, the founder of Toyzuki. This one here, of course, you can see Toyzuki right across the door, but this is another one of his wild little creations. One thing you will notice is that a lot of these vehicles are going to be on 1.9 still, even though you're allowed up to a much taller tire. A lot of the guys elected to go with the smaller tire for being able to navigate around things, and with the ability of things you can do with a winch. A lot of guys were just seeing that the 1.9s were a better choice for them. Each year, the terrain can change and be different, and how course builders decide to do things, everything can change. So you just never know what to expect. With Ben's build here, you can assume that it's on a Toyzuki chassis, but I don't have a lot of other specs on this thing to pull as far as what exactly he's got in here. But you can believe that he's got every point, every competitive advantage he needs, so that Ben thinks that this is the best weapon to take to Class 3. This photo of Charles Meeks' Class 3 is just a wild one and a good example. This truck does look like it's on 2.2s with the Hyrax tires, but you can just see the steering angle, both front and rear, that this truck has. You can imagine the maneuverability something like this has. We did see his Class 2, I believe, and it had some very similar traits as far as how the body was cut and how he had the rock slider, that body mount done. This looks like it's a high clearance, and I believe that's a hard body, so most likely a pretty high scoring on the scale point side. Next truck is another one from David Fout, hard body Hilux with interior. Looks like some big 2.2 Proline flat iron tires, I believe. I can't tell a lot of details, but I think this is on AR-60 Curries. But if it has four-wheel steer or dig, I can't tell at this point. This truck looks way too clean, so I assume he either repainted it because it does look like he's been doing some body work on the bed still. Then we've got a Kaikas Class 3, a truck he's dominated with in the past. 1.9, and it looks like SCX-10.2 axles under this thing, but it's hard to say. Crazy approach angle, and I believe that this is a four-wheel steer truck. Then we've got a Wraith build that fits into Class 3 here, and this one's from, I think, Jamie Lagasa. I'm not sure how you say the name, but this is just a truck that has been adapted to Class 3 from the Wraith platform, which is just a good example showing you that you can make a lot of different types of vehicles fit into these classes. So you can assume this has AR-60 axles, but it does have a metal front bumper. And then it looks like with how the roof is modified that there's a light bar in the front of some sort. Then here's a wild Class 3 build from Jimmy Jordan. This is on another F350 body, but crazy trimmed up, full interior in there, crazy four-wheel steer. Looks like those are SCX-10.2 axles, but those are 2.2 tires with 2.2 Proline high racks. But you can see how much clearance on the sides of the body this thing has. Next, we've got Joe Pera in his C3 Bronco. Now this body, he actually molded himself from this red weave carbon fiber. It was really cool to see him do that. But again, 2.2 AR-60 axles on this one with four-wheel steer, tons of clearance on the side, super cool build. Another one of these crazy cut Toyota bodies from Lawrence Shields here on some KLR-M 1.9, some SCX-10.2 axles, it appears. Built for clearance, built for performance, and looks like it's well used. Then we've got Matt Kedigan trying to show off with his Ripper that he's going to be bringing, but he's going to throw Capra axles under this, he says in his video, but he's relying on me to get him some links or something like that, I don't know. But I'm just telling you, in these photos, he definitely needs to vent his tires. Then we got another build from Pearson Bryant. This is his Class 3 four-wheel steer Hummer H1. Pretty rad body choice, doesn't have the crazy clearances that a lot of these other ones have, but I know that Pearson aims for performance. Looks like this one has portals on it, which I don't think we've seen on another one of the C3s, and that doesn't mean that no other portal C3 will be there. It just means that these are the guys who send in photos. This photo here is from Ryan Overby, and this truck is an old classic. It was built in 2012 or 13 maybe by Tim Samuels, Warpig. Super cool build. I believe that it was a scratch-made body with super cool paint. The metalwork on it is what is really impressive. It's a four-wheel steer monster on those 2.2 Pitbull Rock Beasts. The build thread on this truck back in the day was amazing, and there's just so much cool in this truck that one picture just will never do it justice. And following that truck that Ryan has built by Tim is a truck from Tim that he's bringing next year. You can see the build style similarities. This one, I believe, is another custom cab that Tim built. You know, he gets custom hard body points then. This one's on 2.2 Pitbull XORs rather than the Rock Beast, so a little bit shorter 2.2 tire, but a high performing one nonetheless. Custom chassis, custom tube work, high clearance links, and very certainly very dialed in. But that's gonna do it for those vehicles. Man, that was a lot of cars. Hopefully I got this video trimmed down to a length that's reasonable for you guys to watch, because if you went through all of the man hours and all of those builds, and that's just a small sample of what is actually going to be at the event. There's going to be some of those very competitive trucks there, but there's also going to be some super highly detailed trucks that are gonna go hit the courses and just not worry so much about trying to be the ultimate level of competition. And again, I'm gonna fall somewhere in no man's land in the middle. Hopefully you guys enjoyed seeing a bunch of these other people's builds. I appreciate everyone who spent the time to send in their photos. If you did enjoy the video, hit the like button before you leave. Subscribe if you're not already, and hit the notification bell so you see the videos as soon as they get uploaded. I'll have an update on my vehicles very soon, I promise. There has been some work done. There's a lot of work left to do though, and time is ticking. It's a good thing I continue to distract myself with videos like this rather than spending the time working on those. See you on the next one.